Hello. I
Hi.
am here today with Josh Gruder, a director on the SEI transformation team. We've got some fun stuff to talk about, including the announcement of SEI's Signal Labs program for early stage startups. But before we get there, Josh, I'd love if you could just help us understand, who are you? How did you get here? How did you end up a part of Signal Labs?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. And Matt, great to see you. Thanks for having me today. So yeah, as you noted, I am the director of transformation within strategic education. I've been with the company for about 7 years. I originally started at SEI with Strayer University specifically. And as we stood up the transformation team in early 2023, I joined that team to really work on breakthrough ideas that's going to help SEI push itself into the future. Yeah, and I'm really excited to talk about Signal Labs. Really, really exciting program. I think it's a great way to start connecting startups to the overall strategic education ecosystem.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for very astute listeners, might also know that Josh and I did work together back in the day. So it's fun to see a friendly face,
It
and to
is
do
great
this
to
with a
see you
friendly
again.
face. Could you before we dig into sort of the why behind in Signal Labs, can you talk about just base level, like what is it? What are the core details people should know, particularly early stage startups who might be interesting participants in the program?
Yeah, of course. So Signal Labs is really meant to be a startup accelerator with a very tight relationship, of course, with strategic education. I would note that SEI has been a largely very innovative company for many years, right? And this is just a way for us to respond to the reality where we face ourselves today, right? We know that higher education is a landscape that rapidly shifts and evolves regularly. I would say that that's probably even more sped up today, just given new technology, especially AI. And we're an organization that really wants to make sure that we're constantly at the forefront of bringing the most cutting edge student experience that we can across all of our different brands. And Signal Labs is a great way for us to get there and really for us to start to scope really innovative new companies, ed tech tools that we think, are going to be beneficial for the students that we serve, but also gives us an opportunity to work with companies that have done some really interesting and great work on a smaller scale, and to be able to really test the efficacy of those products and those companies on a larger stage, I think is going to be great for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, reading about it and talking to you and the team about it, I think one of the important things to me is the sense of responsibility that y'all see for your students, right? It's I think startups have these big dreams of wanting to work with 100,000 plus students on a regular basis, and I think SEI earnestly would also like to bring tools to their whole student body, but also understand that you can't just do that willy-nilly, right? You have a responsibility to those students, and this felt like a great sort of happy medium strategy of having the SEI team exposed to some of these new ideas, and then understanding that you'll bring them in the tent, as it were, sort of when they're ready, and having that firsthand view of how they're evolving as companies and when they might actually be ready.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, doing something like Signal Labs gives us really front row visibility, right? To be able to see sort of where these companies are today, where they want to go in the future, and really use SEI as a testing ground. The structure of SEI, I would say, is really unique in its own right, which makes this, I think, a great partnership for those companies. If you think about it, we're a leading education services company. We have a global reach, right? We have a family of brands. We've been around for 130 years, so we have deep experience in this space, obviously. We have over 1,400 employer partners. And so this is a place where these companies can really leverage SEI and the varied student body across all of our different brands to really see what works, where it works, how it works, and how we can improve together, right? And so I think we'll have some level of influence and feedback that we can give these companies as they test. And then certainly they're bringing a great benefit to SEI to where, these products fit really well within our ecosystem. It's going to bring a great benefit not only to the organization as a whole, but to our faculty members and certainly for our students.
Could you give like, is there like a canonical example of Signal Labs company? Like I know this program's new, but is there even like an internal project that made y'all say like, oh, this is a thing that we should find a way to experiment more with? Like that we should create a process by which we can bring in this type of energy and this type of product to the SEI family.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number. I mean, as you know, just from your time working at SEI, that there's never any shortage of new ideas. We're constantly, developing our own homegrown solutions for in a number of different functional areas around the organization. We're constantly searching out for and testing with and piloting different vendors to really see what works. We've got a number of great tools right now that live in the course room, around tutoring, faculty support, student support. Um, Obviously, with the advent of artificial intelligence, there's been a rapid growth in the type of ed tech companies that are coming into SEI that we're scoping to see what makes sense. Um, but Signal Labs really offers us an opportunity to work with, sort of growth stage education startups and future of work startups that, as I mentioned earlier, really maybe haven't tested their product on a large scale. And I think because artificial intelligence, to a certain degree, democratizes the process of being able to take a great idea and now convert that idea into, a fully baked product that can live in sort of as an example, the SEI ecosystem. It allows us a lot of opportunity to work with a lot of different companies. And the beautiful thing is, so far, since we launched this in the fall of 2025, we've seen a ton of initial interest. We've received, I would say a pretty wide range of applicants so far for our first cohort. Think adult learning, workforce readiness, healthcare education, which is a growing field within SEI, AI literacy, career services, foundational skills development. So what we're seeing so far by way of applicants really touches a wide range of areas, many of which are, strategically aligned to where we want to be in the future.
Yeah, and I bet it sort of allows the pace of innovation. You know, if you were doing this entirely internally, right, you'd probably have to stack rank like, well, do we want to do healthcare education? Do we want to do like CTE? Do we want to do health like workforce stuff? Like it's hard to sort of prioritize. Whereas this, you get to see all of them. And I imagine you do have to pick on some level. Like are there a certain number of companies that you're going to work with in this cohort? Like what are some of the tactic? How are you going to like measure success? Like what
Yeah.
are some of the things you're thinking about from a program standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly putting no limit, I would say, on the number of applicants that come in. We want all the applicants to, to reach out to us as much as possible. And then like anything else, we're going through the normal review is, is this strategically aligned? Is this company ready to, to conduct a pilot at SEI? I do agree with you that, if this was sort of all homegrown solutions, we'd have to make some hard choices on what our priorities are. The great thing about this is it really gives us an opportunity to search through a number of great companies and decide, is this a great fit for us? If so, let's run a low stakes test. Let's measure it. If it makes sense, let's look to scale it. Right. And so there will be, as with anything else, um, tight measurements in place. Right. So if we take some of these companies that have been on a smaller scale to sort of prove their efficacy on a bigger stage, before we work with any of them and sort of move to a pilot stage within SEI, we'll work with each one of the companies, right? We'll start to set out what does success really look like, both for the company and for SEI. We'll start to chart out specific goals. What are the objectives that we want to meet? What are the success metrics that's going to give us the right signals to say, hey, should we continue with this? Should we cease this pilot? Or is this something that was wildly successful where we see a great future for it and it gives us a chance to expand that partnership? To get to that answer is like anything else, right? So the product performance will be measured throughout the pilot period, of course. We've got a team of stakeholders across SEI that are going to be looking at that performance. They're going to be looking at the outcomes of that pilot, assessing the impact that it's having not only on our students, but our faculty and our organization at large. And I think between us, our partners at Learn Launch, and certainly that company will help us to reach a decision on how we want to move forward.
Cool. And my understanding is the program is free.
Correct. The program is free. Anybody can apply. And right now, I would note that because we've had such a great amount of interest initially, we've reviewed a number of applicants that have come in. We're starting to kind of align and score them about what that fit might be for SEI. And I think we've largely closed cohort one. But I do want to
Awesome.
be, yeah, it's fantastic. But I do want to be clear that we're reviewing and evaluating applicants on a rolling basis. So we're still seeing more applications come in even outside of cohort one, and we're sort of slotting them into the next cohort of companies that we're going to work with in 2026. And we hope that continues.
And so it's free. I would imagine there's some form of like time commitment. Are they working with you? Are they working with like business unit leaders at SEI? Like what are the like mechanics of
Yeah, yeah.
this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a large number of individuals involved. They'll certainly work with myself, and we've got, our IT teams that they'll work with, our advanced analytics teams that they're going to be working with to measure the efficacy of this pilot. And then we've got innovation labs at every university that are really going to be our business points of contact for all of this work. We have executive leaders that live across SEI who are, tightly monitoring this and are certainly very involved in the not only evaluation, but the selection of what companies that we work with. I'm certainly going to be very involved in the assessment of how that went and the decisions on, if and how we move forward with those companies.
That makes a ton of sense. As you guys were putting together the thesis for this, did you have any sort of like dream concepts? I don't want to say dream products, right? Because like then it's a little bit cart before the horse type of thing. But were there any areas that you were really hopeful that you'd find some interesting new companies and products?
Yeah, I would say broadly, I don't know that we had a specific wish list, but we take a look at our roadmap constantly of where we want to be today, a year from now, 2, 3, 5 years into the future. And as I mentioned earlier, SEI remains a wildly innovative company on a continuous basis, right? And so we're always looking around the corner to what is that next idea, solution, new way of doing business. How do we change our processes and our workflows to deliver the best experience that we can to students? I'd be lying if I said, content, personalization, ways to better support students is always top of mind. So as there are companies that come in with products like that, we give that an extra special look. But there's a number of areas that we want to play in. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, what is the product? What's the efficacy once we go and test it within our company? What is the company like? Are they going to be able to support working with SEI long term? So there's a number of factors that go into, you know, the dream of working with a certain product versus actually the implementation and the wide scale use of it. But yeah, like I said earlier, I'm really happy to see what's come in so far. I think again, we have a lot of tight strategic alignment with where we want to go around, AI literacy. We're a company, that really our main mission across all of our family of brands, right? Strayer University, Capella University, Sophia Learning, Workforce Edge, and then of course Torrens in Australia. Um, we're always looking at ways that we can deliver economic mobility for working adults, right? And we know that you know, rapidly shifting environment in higher education. We know that it's largely defined right now by, the need for personalization, the need to be able to deliver education dynamically. And then, of course, there's always the theme of immediacy. How do we make things easy? How do we remove friction points from the student experience? And so anything that starts to get us closer to that world is something that we're going to take an extra look at.
Yeah, I give SEI credit. You know, I was an employee in from 2017 to 2019 and or 2020, and we were working on chatbots back then, right? And
Oh yeah.
that feels like old news today, but that was 3 years, 6 years before ChatGPT. So I think that to me always sticks out as like willing to try stuff, open to I don't know that I think the leadership team was excited about that when that program first got started, but I don't know that they had like crazy expectations, and they sort of just let it grow over time to the point where I think it now sort of percolates across all of the universities and all the shared services.
Oh, it certainly does. Yeah, has a major visibility inside and outside of the classroom, supporting students, supporting our employees, which is wonderful. And you're exactly right. Way before ChatGPT and what was it, late 2022, early 2023, we were playing in that space. You know, AI, machine learning, really understanding what a chatbot, if used effectively, and used strategically, what that could really mean for our students from an education perspective, but also from a deep support perspective. Because it's really not just about the teaching and learning, which obviously is our number one mission on a day to day basis, but it's supporting students inside and outside of the classroom through their entire educational journey. And so, as humans, as best that we can do to support that, we're going to do it to the degree that we can leverage ed tech, we can leverage innovative new ideas and products. We're also going to pursue that, all towards the same end, which is really giving our students a great experience and making sure that if they come to any of our family of brands within SEI, they're going to leave with a much better chance of reaching economic mobility than before they walk through our door.
Yeah, I've written about like, there are a lot of pundits, as it were, that are focused on the sort of negative effects of AI in higher education. And I think to me, it's become much more about like how are you differentiated, right? And some schools differentiate on the basis of the programs that they offer, whether it's a specific profession or one high quality department or what have you. And I think like I give SEI credit for saying like our mission is economic mobility. We understand that economic mobility is not purely about academics. Like it has to do with the whole person and the whole student behind it. And you can't forget about academics, obviously, but there's more to it. And what I'm particularly excited about when if and when y'all announce the startups that are participating in this program
Yeah.
is I'm expecting there to be a pretty broad variety of like, yes, I'm sure some will be academic, but there will also be, you know, core skills. There will be, maybe profession specific, vocation specific. There will be like whole person stuff. So again, you don't have to like announce it here, but I just think that's what had me particularly excited about the program.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. It's not just about the course room, and the applicants that we've received so far, the companies that we received so far, have really touched on a lot of those different areas. So, how do we create foundational skill development that makes sure that when a student enters SEI's ecosystem, that they have a better chance of being successful? There's things around AI literacy. We know that that is a workforce readiness requirement in today's day and age, right? How can we start to bridge the gap between education and employment through some of these innovative ways to deliver career services? I mean, these are things that are really going to touch every corner of the student experience. And we look forward to finding the best in class of those companies to be able to do that. And what you mentioned earlier about AI, I think really positioned us well as an organization, right? This isn't anything new to us. And when, around 2022 and 2023, we said it's not just about taking artificial intelligence and throwing it at everything, which I think some organizations become a victim to, right? But really, we wanted to think deeply and thoughtfully about what our strategy is, and how not only can we use it effectively, but how can we use it appropriately and how can we use it ethically? And that's just not the approach that we take at the organization. But as we've started to widen the aperture of skills development in this area with this new technology, both for our employees, our faculty members, and our students, we look at that through the same lens. We need to make sure that our students have a deep understanding of how to leverage AI technology, but do it in a way that's appropriate and that's going to prepare them for work.
Awesome. Well, Josh, I've already taken too much of your time. I'm really grateful that you were willing to come speak with me and share more about Signal Labs. I am looking forward again, to either the next cohort or the announcement of this cohort. I'm really excited about the program and we'll dig in on whatever you're able to share as soon as it's ready. So thank you. And I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Oh, I'd love it. Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate the chance to come and talk about this.